Did you know that while the Temptations dazzled the world with their flawless harmonies, slick suits, and unforgettable dance moves, behind the scenes, many of their members faced deeply tragic deaths? It's one of the greatest ironies in music history. The group that gave us joy with every note also carried some of the saddest backstage stories in Motown. Formed in 1960 in Detroit, the Temptations were Motown's crown jewel. They were the embodiment of class, style, and vocal perfection. The original lineup, Otis Williams, Paul Williams, Eddie Kendricks, Melvin Franklin, and Elbridge Al Bryant, later replaced by David Ruffen, became cultural icons, changing the sound of soul forever. Their influence spanned generations, genres, and even continents, with hits like My Girl, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, and Papa Was a Rollin' Stone. The Temptations weren't just a group, they were a movement. But behind the harmonies were real men complex, flawed, brilliant, and often burdened. Fame, mental health, drug addiction, disease, and sometimes plain bad luck took many of them early. Today, only Otis Williams remains from the original five. The rest have moved on not just from the group, but from this life often under tragic, even controversial circumstances. Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video and drop a comment below. Who's your favorite Temptation? And what song hits you hardest knowing they're gone? Let's honor their legacies by telling their full stories, the triumphs, the tragedy, and the truth. Paul Williams, 1939 to 1973. Let's begin with Paul Williams, the original choreographer and baritone singer of the group. Born 1939 in Birmingham, Alabama, Paul was the foundation of the Temptations' stage presence. His smooth dance moves and deep, rich vocals were part of what set the group apart from every other act in the early 1960s. But Paul's life behind the spotlight was heavy. He battled sickle cell anemia, alcoholism, and depression, a toxic trio that worsened after he was sidelined from the group in the early 70s. Paul was struggling to keep up with the demands of touring and performing, especially as the group evolved musically. He became increasingly withdrawn, missing rehearsals, and isolating himself. After leaving the group in 1971, he opened a personal wardrobe business, but the depression remained. On August 1973, Paul Williams was found dead in a parked car in an alley in Detroit. He had a single gunshot wound to the head, and a revolver was found nearby. The mysterious circumstances leading to his death still lingers, but many, including fans and some bandmates, have questioned that conclusion for decades. Was Paul pushed to the edge by the industry? Was there something more sinister at play? He was only 34 years old and was buried at Lincoln Memorial Park in Clinton Township, Michigan, not far from the soul capital of the world, Detroit. David Ruffen, 1941 to 1991. He was the Fireball. Born January 1941 in Wynot, Mississippi, David didn't just sing lead, he set the mic on fire. He was the unmistakable voice behind My Girl, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, and I Wish It Would Rain. He had presence, power, and personality, but he also had personal problems. Ruffen's rise in the group brought tension. He famously demanded the name be changed to David Ruffen, The Temptations, something Berry Gordy and the group flatly refused. He often missed rehearsals, arrived late for shows, and battled drug addiction during his peak years. In 1968, he was fired from the group after disappearing during a tour. Though he launched a successful solo career, David was never able to outrun his demons. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, he attempted a Temptations reunion alongside Eddie Kendricks and Dennis Edwards. But the past had taken its toll. On June 1991, David Ruffen collapsed in a Philadelphia crack house after a drug overdose. He was dropped off at a local hospital by an unknown companion and pronounced dead at age 50. There were rumors of stolen money and suspicious behavior by those around him in his final hours. Some say he had thousands of dollars on him, cash that mysteriously vanished. He is buried at Woodlawn Cemetery in Detroit, a legend silenced by addiction, but immortalized by his voice. Eddie Kendricks, 1939 to 1992. Eddie Kendricks, the falsetto master, was born December 1000, 939, in Union Springs, Alabama. His sweet high voice defined hits like "Just My Imagination," "The Way You Do the Things You Do," and "Get Ready." He was the dreamer of the group, smooth, stylish, and soft-spoken. After leaving the group in 1971 due to musical disagreements and group tensions, Eddie found solo success with hits like "Keep On Truckin'." But despite the spotlight, his life was not without darkness. In the late 1980s, he reunited with Ruffen and Dennis Edwards, but his health had begun to decline. In 1991, Kendricks was diagnosed with lung cancer. A lifelong smoker, he underwent surgery to remove one lung and continued to perform even while undergoing treatment. In his final months, he moved back to Birmingham to be close to his family and rest. On October 1992, just 16 months after Ruffen's death, Eddie passed away at 52 years old. He is buried at Elmwood Cemetery in Birmingham, Alabama. At his funeral, Otis Williams and other members carried his casket while Temptations hits played in the background. A voice like no other, gone, but never forgotten. Melvin Franklin, 1942 to 1995. If Eddie was the voice that soared, Melvin Franklin was the thunder below. Born October 1942 in Montgomery, Alabama, Melvin was the booming bass who gave the Temptations their vocal gravity. He was the heart of the group, always loyal, always steady, and always smiling. Melvin battled rheumatoid arthritis for much of his adult life and took heavy doses of cortisone to stay on the road. The treatment weakened his immune system, leading to a cascade of health issues. In 1978, he was shot during a carjacking attempt and miraculously survived. By the early 90s, his health had drastically declined. In 1995, Melvin collapsed and fell into a coma after suffering multiple seizures in Los Angeles. He died on February 1995 at just 52 years old. He is buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, Hollywood's Cemetery of Legends. Melvin never left the group, performing through pain and illness until the very end. His nickname? Blue, and it was fitting because when he left, a void fully of legacy. Dennis Edwards, 1943 to 2018. Dennis Edwards may not have been an original member, but he led the group into a bold new era. Born February 1943 in Fairfield, Alabama, Dennis joined in 1968, replacing Ruffen. His gritty gospel vocals drove the Temptations through their psychedelic soul phase, belting out Cloud 9, Ball of Confusion, and the epic Papa Was a Rollin' Stone. Dennis had a powerful solo run in the 80s with the hit Don't Look Any Further. He returned to the Temptations multiple times, forming splinter groups and doing reunion shows. In his final years, he suffered from health complications, including meningitis and suspected dementia. His last months were marked by controversy, with reports of elder abuse surfacing just before his death. Dennis passed away on February 2018 in Chicago, Illinois, just 2 days shy of his 75th birthday. He is buried at St. Galilee Baptist Church Cemetery in Alabama. A powerhouse voice and a troubled soul, Dennis left behind a complicated but towering legacy. The last man standing. Otis Williams was born on October 1941 in Texarkana, Texas, is the last surviving original member of the Temptations. Now in his 80s, Otis continues to tour and manage the group that made music history. He never sang lead on any of the group's major hits, but he was and remains its founder, its organizer, and its anchor. He's outlived them all, carrying the legacy on his back, while watching nearly every brother he ever harmonized with pass away. But as Otis himself has often said, we're not just a group, we're a story, and that story still needs to be told. So, which Temptation member was your favorite? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because even though so many of the Temptations have taken their final bow, their harmonies still echo, timeless and true.